go through certain things because of heartbreak. And, you know, Pluto and Capricorn did that for me. It was always a power struggle in my relationships, and money was involved because Venus rules relationships. And Venus, my second house, rules my 10th house, Taurus, right? As well as my third house, communications, cousins, siblings, neighborhood, school age. So all of that had a deep impact, especially with Pluto being in the third, had a deep impact on my emotional awareness and relationship. So just my relationship with women off the bat, of course that starts with the mother, and the man starts with the father, right? Because that's just association that we're making. It doesn't necessarily mean that you gotta treat everybody the way, you know, somebody treated you or whatever, but it is what it is. So just in my earliest days that I can remember, having a boyfriend seemed like the cool thing to do. And it was this guy I liked. His name was Raphael, or we called him Raphael. But his name was Raphael, and I thought he was so cute, and like all the girls thought he was so cute as well. So it made me nervous, because it's like, what if, you know, he just don't like me no more one day, he likes somebody else that I know, and that's really gonna crush me, you know what I'm saying? So that's like one of the first memories I have as far as like boyfriend or liking somebody or whatever. And then it just, you know, I remember having crushes on boys when I was in, like, you know, in school, when I was in grade school, and never telling them that I had a crush on them or whatever, just always kind of like being real friendly, or, you know, wanting to talk to them and be cool, like be friends with them. That was my way of flirting, was trying to be friends with people that I really liked. But it kind of made it look like, you know, maybe it wasn't nothing special because I'm just being friendly. But that's kind of like was my thing, I guess you could kind of say, was I remember liking somebody and treated them like they're like my special, like they're special, they're my friend and stuff like that. And then when I got to a different school, when I changed schools, it was a boy that I liked at that school, and he was so funny, and I liked him a lot just because of the fact that he was just so funny to me. Like, I was always in a good ass mood because he always had me rolling laughing. And it was especially during the times when I moved, it was like I was kind of like the saddest, you know, but he kept me rolling, so I liked him, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, elementary boyfriend girlfriend relationships, you know, I was taking it serious, but nobody else was. But I'm like, it's cool, it's okay, because even to this day I still adore him. Like, he's still cool as fuck. So I knew like my compass wasn't completely off, because he's still cool people, right? But when I get into like my deep teenagers, I had like this boyfriend from the same organization, and we kind of grew up together as well. At first we didn't really too much care for each other, but we ended up kind of liking each other or whatever. But then it was like, it was so much pressure about, you know, from the organization, about how you're supposed to be, and how you're supposed to do your relationship, and marriage was strongly encouraged and stuff like that. And it was like, I romanticized relationships and love and marriage and having a family. I romanticized that so deeply because I felt like it was something that I always wanted to have for myself. And I had what I felt like was a strained relationship with my mother. So, and sometimes even my sister. But I had a bunch of siblings as well that I was able to connect to, but we was all at a distance. So, you know, it wasn't, and I got Sag 4th house, right? So it was kind of like, you know, like I got people who care about me or love me, but everybody's at a distance. I don't see them all the time. I don't engage with them all the time. You know, there's some space between us, some mystery or whatever, some air. Aqua moon, right? when it came to my father, I always felt very seen. I felt very acknowledged. I felt encouraged. So the relationship dynamic was definitely different for me and him versus me and my mother. And that was obvious to her. And I know, you know, being a parent now, I understand like that feeling, like, especially after you was, you know, hurt or done wrong by the other party, like, and like, is you gonna take his side or you gonna take her side? Like, but it's not really like that for real. It's just, you know, it's just love, you know, it's just family, okay? And how you respond or react to it says a lot about you as a person, okay? So yeah, it was like I had this relationship with this guy when I was like 14, 15, and it was like super serious, so young. And even the boyfriend I had at 18 or 19 years old, it seemed super serious because it was always this talk about marriage, and I thought I would be married at like 24, 25, like, because that's everybody else was getting married in their 20s. So I thought I would be married by like 24, 25, and, you know, I didn't have no idea what I wanted to do for a career other than what I was told to do. And I was never seen as being domesticated. I was always seen as being some party girl by other people. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, that's interesting insight, but I knew what I wanted, so I didn't really care. But the moment I got to the turn in my life where I now am in a phase of relationships where now it's like consensual sex is involved, I chose to do that with someone that I felt like this was the right person to do that with. Like, this is the time, like, now, you know, go ahead, you know. And it could have happened, you know, numerous amount of times with, you know, that earlier boyfriend and us being together and hanging out and stuff, and him riding bikes and walking to come see me for miles and stealing cars, like just doing unnecessary bad stuff. But, you know, that's just teenager stuff, you know what I'm saying? But I didn't want to be with somebody who was disrespectful to their parents, because you're gonna disrespect me eventually. Shoot. I mean, that's kind of how I seen it. So it was like I kind of was a square. It kind of came off as me being kind of like a square, but I didn't care. Like, you know, I just didn't want to be looked at as, you know, because I was being accused of like turning him into something else and making him different. And like, he's his own person. I can't control somebody. Like, wasn't controlling him. I didn't tell him to go and do weird, bad stuff like steal and take credit. Like, I wasn't telling him to do that. So it was like, but everybody wanted me to be with this person, like thinking it was cute, or, you know what I'm saying, like that. But I'm like, but why would everybody want me to be with somebody that's like this? You know what I'm saying? And it's no shade to him. You know what I'm saying? It's no shade to him. No shade at all to him, because his heart was in the right place. He just was doing, you know, things that were not legal. But he was young. He had to learn his lesson, like we all do. You know what I'm saying? So I wasn't, you know, shading him for that. Everybody, I mean, I'm not going to either. So, but yeah, it was kind of like crazy, because once I broke away from that relationship because he was being fake because of the no sex thing, and then my boyfriend I had after that when I was 19, very popular yet again. But it was like I felt the pressure of being married and having a family and living my life according to, you know, what's best for other people, and what that made them see me as being quote unquote good. So when I got to the point where I started, you know, having more intimate relationships with somebody, it was like, it did feel like my whole world was different, because I started to see things differently. I started to notice things that I didn't notice before. In the background that became to the front ground. Like, that really did shift my attention or my awareness a slight bit. It's like the door kind of like got cracked open that was already trying to get me to come in. And then it was like after that whole, you know, understanding, it was like to get my feelings hurt, it was like, okay, well, you know, that happens, but like it doesn't have to be the end. Because then I start focusing on like, okay, don't worry about being in a relationship, just, you know, have fun, and, you know, getting this energy or this information of like being liberated and all this other stuff. And it's like, but am I really liberating myself? Because I don't feel liberated just because I can talk to several guys. I don't feel liberated just because, you know, I can be with this person. And I didn't feel liberation like that. And I tried it because, I mean, who hasn't? I mean, there's people who haven't, but, you know, that's just how I looked at it. Like, I wasn't getting fulfillment out of being, I wasn't even trying to be a player or nothing. I just didn't get fulfillment out of being with multiple people. I didn't see the reason why someone would cheat and stuff like that. Like, I felt like that was just being greedy. And wanting multiple energies, like, you know, siphoning and vampirism, like that type of energy. Like, that's how I kind of saw it as. And only the person that I was my first, I wanted to be the only person I'm with. Like, that's how I was looking at the situation, because that's what I wanted and that's how I was raised to be. And I romanticized it, I fantasized it. And it's like, even to still come into a union with that person, it still would be like a dream come true. But at the same time, it's like I went through a lot of lessons between now and then. And a lot of the lessons for me really was to stop giving people so much power, which really is stop giving people so much attention. And it was a few, I know every person who I have a, you know, a past with. I know what type of past I have with the type of people I do have a past with as well. So it's not like I was just, you know, loose as a goose. But some people may, you know, feel like the story may be different based on who they speak with or who they've talked to about what they think or who they feel like I am, and that's fine. But I know me and what I will and when I do or deal with, personally speaking. But going through those, I had a situation with this guy I really liked for a long time, and I decided to get more intimate with the person. And then it was like my mind was not in the moment at all, and I was thinking about other stuff that was really bothering me. And he stopped to ask me if I was okay, and what am I thinking about, and if I was even interested, because I was just not responding at all. And I'm like, I feel like I've done this out of, you know, sheer trauma response and PTSD or something like that. Like, that's how I was responding to what was going on in my life, because I didn't really feel like anybody cared, because I knew to a certain extent that with people gossiping, including your own parents being involved in the gossip, that people only going to see me a certain type of way. Like, that's what it started to cement into my head. Like, all these people are only going to see me a specific type of way, and it doesn't matter what I do or how perfect I try to be or how clean I try to keep my appearance or how professional or whatever it is. Niggas still gonna have a perception of me that I can't control. So what am I gonna do? Not give a fuck. And at that point, I kind of disappeared, because it's like, let me take myself a bit more seriously, because I really want to, you know, have that style of relationship like that I said that I wanted, and I meant what I said. So I just started like, let me just do life differently for a minute, you know what I'm saying? And then next thing I know, it was like, now I met my oldest daughter's father, and you know, that relationship, I was so focused on being a parent and trying to do what I was raised to do in my head, to be like a wife and mother and all that stuff. But it was like, I can't live the lifestyle that they want me to live, but I could still, the value system I could still utilize because I think it's a good value system. But when I'm the only one with the value system and they don't have the same value system, it does make for a complicated relationship, because there were certain values that I held in my relationship that was not being held with the person I was in a relationship with. So then it got to a point where just like, I can't do this no more, because I felt like emotionally I was turning into something very dark and dangerous, and I didn't like it. So I moved on. And I'm like, I'm gonna just go find my happiness. And in between that and my next relationship, it was people that I, dated, never anything serious, of course, but I dated even people that I circled back to, which I had a habit of doing as well, because I knew I still had feelings or some thought in my head about them. But then eventually I grew out of that habit as well, because it's like, if it's over, it's over. We don't have to go back. And I didn't want to go backwards. So by the time I get to Vegas, I meet my son's father. This is like just me just throwing almost really caution to the wind and just saying, just take a chance. You know what I'm saying? And that was a very karmic lesson as well, because then that's when I hit my Saturn return, the nodal reversal, and shit really hit the fan. Okay? And I was really in a state of loss with a relationship with my mother, and really how I saw family, and being on my own and trying to figure it all out. Like, that took me time. And when I started to figure myself out, that's what brought me closer to understanding my relationship with, my higher power, my definition of what God is to me. And that's kind of what kicked off even more of a need to not be in a rush to partnership. Because once that relationship ended with the domestic violence and constantly moving around and just so much instability and a lot of anger coming up, a lot of emotion, because he had a Scorpio stellium on my Pluto Scorpio in my third house. So it was a lot of different dark things that came out of me in that relationship that also brought in the darkness in that relationship. Very violent energy. And I thought I deserved it to a certain extent. And then eventually I was like, no, I brought it into my life energetically, but that doesn't mean that, logically speaking, I deserve it. Emotionally speaking, I deserve it. Spiritually speaking, I didn't deserve it. So I decided to move away from that. And I felt like, even though I really wanted my family to work, just like I tried to get it to work in the first relationship 5 years before, like, this relationship was a bit different because I didn't have nobody else, and it was just us two. And then he betrayed me as well, so I couldn't even trust him anymore. So I really felt alone the entire time. And then nobody was able to come to my physical defense to protect me. I had to figure out ways to protect myself and be smart and play, things a little more clever than I normally would, because I was very out in the open. I was very boisterous. I didn't really care about certain stuff, but then I had to be more strategic in how I move and did stuff, because that could mean my life. That could mean my child, like, not seeing me. That can mean, like, that's the type of survival instinct mode that I was in for so long. And then to come back home and have to work myself out of that also. And I started dating someone else that I had knew prior, and it was like, no, like, I don't want to do this either. This is not good for me. Like, you out the gate just straight up lying to me, don't have any type of real identification with yourself. After what I just been through, I can't deal with that. And I'm okay with being talked about behind the scenes about it too, because none of that stuff was really healing for me, and I was in a very wanting to heal place. So to cross paths with someone who I deeply treasure and wanted to spend my entire life with was monumental for me during a time of great healing with, the Saturn return cycle. And that didn't even go as beautiful as I wanted to even then, just like it did in the beginning. But it brought so much awareness to myself that it made me want to slow down even more, because I started to see, like, yes, I grew up, yes, I went through things that changed my perspective about myself and the type of lifestyle I wanted, since, you know, all the way back there when we first met. However, there were certain value systems that I never had that have been added to, you know, how I see myself now, that wasn't there before. And trying to introduce that part of me to someone after that relationship having its own PTSD, and then having stuff that happened without relationship, with relationship, the very recent relationship I just got out of. So I was okay with not being in a relationship right then and there, and I was okay with him not being in a relationship right now, because the last almost decade we locked in having children, you know what I'm saying? So I wanted to take things slow, I wanted to go slow, but then at the same time it was like my ego didn't want to take things slow. And then that's when I discovered that part of myself where it's like I gotta feel like I'm holding on to something, or I have something, or somebody is there. Like I wanted to show that off, or wanted to prove that I am lovable, that somebody does want me, and I don't have to live like the lifestyle that I had before with my ex. And then it's like that wasn't the key either, because that ended up going in my face to a certain extent, and I had to really deal with that shit. I was on the freeway driving on 94. I was doing at least 80 something on the freeway, and I was forcefully crying. I couldn't even control how much was coming out of me. I was crying so badly about that situation being kind of like terminated, because it's like I gave myself permission to do it, and to know that whatever, regardless of what's going on outside, I'm still safe and I'm protected. Just go ahead. And I wanted to sit in that for a minute, because it was like I really want to allow myself to just be sad. But then it was like I couldn't, after I let so much of that out while I was in that state, you know, driving or whatever. Once I got to my destination, I'm like, okay, actually I'm quite over it now. Like, let's move on to something else. And then I meet somebody else that same day that again unlocked another level of clarity about who I am in my path, that allowed me to again not be in a rush to be in a relationship, but get to know them personally, because it's something about myself that I'm learning with this person. It's certain traits and values that I'm picking up, that I'm listening to, on top of whatever astrological sciences that I'm acquiring from this encounter. Like, that is highlighting things in me, you know, and I'm getting to know me differently by getting to know this person. And then I can, you know, find a way to alchemize the energy back to them, so that they feel that same type of, you know, awakening, opening up, you know, vulnerability and things of that nature. Only to get to a point where it's like, okay, this situation was no better than the last one, but except for the fact that there was openness, there was complete openness to who he was and what he wanted, on a level that I never received from a man before, that made me comfortable even going through that transformational process in the first place, because I was able to transmute a lot of fear from other folks, generationally speaking. I was able to alchemize that fear and turn it into power, and that gave me another realization about myself that allowed me to love myself better. So going into my last relationship, not even with my daughter's father, my baby father, and that was like, I felt like that relationship was birthed out of a lot of deep hidden pain, because he had gone through so much, lost so much, and I didn't know where he was really at, but I did feel he wasn't as mentally or emotionally stable as I was, but his spirit seemed like he wanted to be. So I trusted that, you know, leaning into potential more than actualization. And then it started to hit me when I started to get requests that I should feel responsible for what happens to him and his success story. And it's like, why isn't he more, responsible for his success stories? And it's not that he's a bad person. I don't think he's, malicious, inherently malicious. I just feel like a lot of the men that I've dealt with, they just hurt, have a mother wound. And then the person who doesn't have a mother wound, it's like they have the father wound to my mother wound, and I understand it, and I don't allow it to like take up space in me to use it against him, to bring him to a reality, or to hurt him, or to lower his frequency. Like, that's not what I want to use that type of information for. But through going through raising, being pregnant, and starting to take care of my daughter completely on my own by myself, which is something I hadn't experienced before, so early on in relationship when it comes to having children, because I felt alone in our first two, but they were still around physically to do something. And even then, it was kind of bare minimum to me, because I couldn't get a massage, I couldn't get support, I couldn't have nobody taking care of me the way that I would see in a movie or something when they pregnant. Like, I didn't get that type of treatment from anybody. It was me taking care of myself and doing what was best for me, because I couldn't trust somebody else to do it for me. And then it was like I didn't have a choice but to live my life like that. And instead of it making me, sorrowful or bitter, and that things of that, persuasion, it actually made me stronger. It made me love me more. It made me more confident in myself. It made me more sure of the things that I wanted to do. And it made me feel like I had the power to change my life and transmute the energy way more than I ever had before. So of course, taking care of a baby by yourself in this day and age, where men really are, especially black men, are like number one in fatherhood, that really blew me, because that's the same time frame that I lost my own father. So it's like a double wound on top of, losing a child before having this one too. This is my rainbow baby, just like my last child was a rainbow baby. Like, all of that kind of catapulted itself into like, don't be in a rush. And then even the most recent, folks that I've tried to get to know, not even getting to a dating stage, but just trying to get to know, and it's like a lot of men coming towards me. It's like, you want me to take care of you, like financially, you want me to have your children, you want me to, and it's like, you see me as, because I take those things as like, you see me as being responsible, you see me as being a nurturer, you see me as being a good mother, a good woman, and you will want me to take care of your children. Like, those are good attributes, those are good qualities that you're reflecting back to me by asking me to be in situations where I have to activate those parts of me. So I don't take it as a negative, but in that sense, but I do see the negative or the shade in it, because it's like, I can do all this for you, but what am I going to get in return? Because I've been the person to pay all the bills. I've been the person to bring home the bacon and cook it. And you still here, but you're not contributing to the team effort. You only contributing to your effort, and I'm putting in on the team. That's another reason that I had to slow down when it comes to, dating. And then after everything I just went through with that one, it was like, maybe around 40, I can look at, having one more child. But for right now, my whole focus is on, what it never had been before, which is money. And I've been afraid to focus on money. I've been afraid to focus on my finances, because, growing up, I thought focusing on taking care of myself financially or my livelihood meant that I had to count dollars and cents. So if I'm focused on dollars and cents and making money, then I'm inherently evil. And if you only focused on money, like, that's a bad thing or a bad trait. Like, you're not supposed to do that. And it's like the relationship with money becomes tainted. You know what I'm saying? So I had to correct that. I had to fix that about myself for years. I'm still working on that. I'm still fixing it, but I'm better than where I used to be, because now I give myself permission to be self-employed. I give myself permission to do gigs. I give myself permission to do the things that make me happy, that can also make me money. And it doesn't matter what other people say about my relationship to my job, my higher power, myself, my children. Like, that's one thing I learned too in slowing down with relationships, is that the relationship that I had with whoever the him was the same relationship I was having with myself in all other areas of my life. And that also forced me to be comfortable with slowing down and not having no one to entertain or to be entertained by for a long time. I never had an issue with, practicing abstinence. I've never been the type of person that feel like I need to have sex, or I just got to. And I feel like that protected me from a lot of situations that I could have been in that was worse than what I've been through. However, I still sometimes think like if I would have never, took that turn, things could have went different. But it's like no need. It really is no need to do that to yourself. It's really better if you just accept, what was, what is, what has, and what will be. And it only works out for me. So yeah, it was a lot to go through, carrying a child, taking care of myself, having the baby alone, being in labor alone. That was really, really like a moment where I just completely had to surrender to my higher power, and I couldn't even, I didn't want to exist in my body at that time. All I wanted to do is call on a higher power to, my great mothers. That's what I kept calling on, the great mothers and before mothers that came before me, that are skilled in mastering the art of childbirth and breathing and health. Like, please be with me at this time, like comfort me, bring me, peace of mind, and help me to remain, in my body to breathe, and, clear the way for her to come, because it was so difficult to do. And I felt like it was so hard for me because nobody was there. And that also forced me to slow down when it comes to dating, because now I'm looking way, like at first maybe I've been a couple miles away and I can look and see some stuff. Now I'm looking at a distance of like countries away, okay, light years away. I'm looking at you from light years away, and I'm sensing and I'm reading, and then I'm determining. And even the experience I had with kind of like, beginner's luck stupid with dating again, even after that, it was like the fear of that happening to me again really slowed me the fuck down from even wanting to give somebody my phone number, let alone talk to them on a regular basis. It's a lot of men who like, oh, I like you and I got a crush on you and stuff like that. And I'm not saying it's out of ego or, thinking I'm the shit. It's just like, that's great, that's awesome, I appreciate the compliments, I do, but it's like at the same time, like what does it mean though? Is it going to be life-changing? Is it going to bring both of us our dreams to manifest and come true? Is it going to make our families happy? And not to say that my relationship has to please everyone in my family, but what I'm saying is my family that I created is more important to me than the family that I come from. So if my family is not happy, what I'm saying, or in a happy stance, like if it's difficult for me to get my family in a happy stance because of you, you have to go. Like, I can't be with no trifling ass, do nothing ass people. Like, I can't deal with people who don't want to do anything but complain and cry and moan and bitch like, I can't do that, because my inner Virgo will not let it happen, because my first thing is gonna be like, okay, well, how are you contributing to it? Because that's the same thing I had to do to myself. Again, slowing down the whole relationship thing. And a lot of people think that, on the internet, people can say whatever the fuck they want about your standards and you choosing to live your life a certain type of way. People are free to speak on me however they want to. I accept the energy that you give to me, because I'm a transmute it and level up again. So really it's all about like, what do I want? Who do I want to be with? And then also being aware that I know who I want to be with, who I want to spend the rest of my life with. It's like, okay, how am I contributing to this? Or how will I be able to contribute to this? Do I feel like I'm in a state of mind where, I can contribute to it, and that was slowing me down as well, in a negative way, in a bad way, because it's like we can never really predict every single little thing, number one, and if you're waiting to be ready for something, you'll never be ready. You just got to do it. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of like where I am right now, is to release South Node Virgo, release perfectionism, and just accept things as they are. And go from there. And that can be very risky for a lot of people, but I live in the awareness, the state of awareness where love is everywhere. It exists in everything. So there's never a moment or a day where I don't feel or know that I am loved. But that doesn't minimize the fact that I want to be in a loving partnership, relationship, companionship, business partnerships, like even my friendships, relationship, all relationships, I want to experience real deep joy, genuine love. And I want them to experience that as well. So my love life had to slow down a lot in order for me to understand myself, my values, discover new values, release some values, and be more of a participant rather than an observer in my relationships, because closed mouths do not get fed. And sometimes when you hold back from saying something because you feel like it will break up the relationship, that's going to break up the relationship even more, and it's going to be at a slower pace, which kind of makes it even more dramatic, to say the least. So, I'm highly aware, especially more now, that a lot of people can say a lot of good or bad things about me, and the only thing that will always matter is what do I have to say about myself. And that conversation is way more important to me than what a bunch of dudes who could get no play from me will ever have to say or think. And a lot of females who felt like I overstepped my boundaries when I really didn't know can say whatever they want to as well. All right, I've learned to heal my own mother wound and whatever father wound that I have as well, and trust myself and not worry about trusting another person. And it was very vital for me to learn the lessons of take care of myself regardless, because we don't live in an age anymore where the husband has to take care of every little thing. We as women are free to take care of ourselves, and that's not a punishment to us, and that's not a punishment to the man. It actually creates more space for equity, equality, and love. We can heal from the past where women could not be free to do anything, and then a man felt stressed out and obligated because he had to do everything. Like, there was dark and light sides to every freaking thing. So I definitely look forward to my new partnership, being in a new partnership where money isn't an issue, because financially I was the one that was always more responsible, and even I had to learn some things. I've never had a relationship or been in a situation where a man just completely took care of everything that I had to do financially, just to make it easier for me to be. I was always the one extending my hand to support them, even the person that people that I wanted to spend more than a few years with. You know what I'm saying? People I have children with. Like, I've always thought that if I gave them that ultimate support, that not only will they reciprocate it, but it will allow them to elevate themselves into a realm of reality where they see themselves as being wealthier, healthier, richer, more loved, more accepted, whatever they needed in order for them to get on the path that they wanted to be on, to create their desired outcomes. But and some of them they did reach that. My children's fathers did reach that point where they finally got to the point where it's like, I'm gonna truly keep it real with myself and do the things I really want to do. And I was happy for them. I congratulate them. But to turn that energy on myself, purify myself, criticize myself, learn to love myself, engage with myself, has been the best relationship I've ever had in my entire life. And keeping myself in my money, my family I created included, my number one, you know, because that's a part of my relationship with my most high self. Keeping that number one, focusing on the kingdom, Matthew 6:33, will add a profound amount of love and sincerity to the partnership that I know that I'm destined to have and already exist and I'm already living in. So if you made it this far, thank you so much. I hope you enjoy my spiel. Please be sure to like this video, thumbs up this video, subscribe to the channel. I might leave the comments open on this one. Drop a comment of a moon emoji if you made it this far in the video. And thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, the universe is always guiding us, always. So stay aligned, stay radiant, and until next time, peace.